What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, back again with another deck profile. Now, I know this is not the D-Series content you probably want to see right here on the channel, but we do have that coming. Our shipment actually got delayed for all of our trial decks. We have a whole bunch of them, so we are definitely looking forward to getting that this Friday on the release of the booster set, which we are actually going to be having a case opening for, so definitely subscribe and check that out. They're very excited to bring that to you in all of our D-Series content. Can't wait to start rolling more stuff out a little bit more regularly as we used to, but yeah, I just figured I have this deck laying around, and I've been toolboxing, playing around with this, and really trying to nail down like an updated list for this, because this is like an oldie but goldie card. You know, if you started off playing V Premium or the V Series in general, when it first came out, this was like the main Narukami boss unit for the first set, so I kind of breathed a little bit of life back into the deck, and I mentioned on a comment that I would bring this and maybe some other Narukami decks up to you guys. So if I have enough interest on this, and let's say we get like 30 likes or whatever, I'll definitely bring some of the updated. I also have, what was it, a new Vermilion deck. It's kind of like an Eradicator Vermilion kind of combined that a viewer actually kind of tipped me off to, and I've been playing around with that. So yeah, without further ado, let's hop right into this list, and I will show you what I'm rocking. Alright, before we begin, I just wanted to quickly mention that we do have a TCG player link if you guys are interested in purchasing any of the cards. Today I asked that maybe you do go through that link. It helps support the channel, absolutely no cost to you, and we have a ton of other D-Series content coming up, so if you guys are interested, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But let's move right along. So we are starting off with 4 of our main boss unit himself, an oldie but goldie, like I mentioned. This is Detonix Drill Dragon. So the whole idea of this deck is to really get Detonix Drill Dragon to stand for a minimal cost from our hand, so not discarding a lot at all, if at all, and also standing him up with a lot of power. So there's a card now that has come out that has really allowed us to breathe a little bit more life back into some of these older decks. Anything that restood previously that didn't have a ton of power can now get a lot of power. So it's not the most consistent in the world, but definitely helps push the strategy a little bit further from where it was previously by just running this card vanilla alone. I'll show you in just a moment what that is. But moving right along to the next grade 3, I'm actually running 2 of Thunderbreak Dragon. This deck is kind of like a budget deck in a way. Like I wasn't super budget conscious, but it just kind of ended up that way. And I'll show you guys too some alternative choices if you guys don't want to buy some of the cards that might cost, you know, a couple dollars or whatever. But Thunderbreak Dragon is good because we are actually able to take cards from our opponent's rear guard circles in the back row and bring them to the front row. So anything that we couldn't maybe snipe with a bind beforehand, we can now do with Thunderbreak. And if you wanted to have an alternative ride, like if you know your opponent's front row is just absolutely stacked and you need to clear them out, you're not going to have the juice in your hand or through your other cards to really do it, you can pop him down and go for it, and he attacks the entire front row if your opponent is on a grade 3. So we don't really want to be riding him, but I think really the secondary skill is the main purpose here, dragging other units upwards to the front row. Now, like I mentioned, we are looking to make our Detonix Drill Dragon really big, so I think this order card really helps us do it. Kind of, like I said, breathe a little bit of life back into some of these older decks. So we're going to be running 3 of Power Rise Elixir. I know this isn't the most cost-effective card in the world, and again, this is more like a fun strategy, just kind of revitalizing this deck, but one of your units for Counterblast 2 gets an additional 20k until the end of turn. So when you first attack with this, if you're unboosted, that's going to be a 32k attack, 37k when it is standing up, and then hopefully you are boosting it with another grade 1 I'll get into in just a little bit, which I believe puts it at a 41 or 42k kind of attack, which is pretty good overall, plus a Sentinel Restrict, so we'll get into that in just a moment. But overall, this is the main idea. You know, you bump up your Detonix Drill Dragon, stand him up without having to sacrifice a lot from your hand, and yeah, just have a really big attack with a Sentinel Restrict at the end. Moving right along, I'm going to give you a couple different options for these 2 cards actually here, but I'm running 2 of Cho-Oh. So Cho-Oh is a really nice card because it allows us to get a little bit of multi-attack off. I know these cards are kind of expensive right now. I think they're like $7 in that range. They were really cheap. If you can get a good deal on them, go for it. If not, I'll give you some options in just a second, but when we pop him down, you get to Counterblast 1 to bind a card in the front row and drag another guy up from that rear guard row. That's like the main idea. That's really why you want him, just because we're going to be able to drag things up, and also, you know, they become targets for other binds, allowing us not to, you know, discard more cards from our hand to restand our Drill Dragon. And plus the additional attack if we want to, you know, attack first, attack with him, possibly restand him with another Counterblast. This deck is kind of Counterblast heavy, which is why you can go into these alternatives if you want to save a little money and save a little Counterblast, I guess. But another option could be the Dragonic Death Scythe. I think these guys are like $1 now. Not too bad at all. You Soul Blast Blast 2, which we don't really use Soul Blast in this deck, and this guy becomes a 17k unboosted on a regular rearguard circle, 22 then on a Excel 2, and we never really use Excel 1 in this deck, so don't worry about that. But overall, like, it's another alternative, and I will say that this is actually an option too if you want to go super budget here. This is turning Bash Dragon, so when it attacks, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you get to Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's front row rearguards, and bind it. So this is when it attacks, which actually pairs really well with something else. Let me show you right now, actually. So this one is a surprising card too. I think this one went up in value. I bought a bunch of these knowing that it probably would go up in value, but I guess they finally did. I went to go check the price a little bit earlier. I expected to see a couple, quarters, but I think they're like $4 now. It's kind of crazy. This is Voltage Horn Dragon. So during your turn, if any player's card was bound, it gets an additional 5k. So nice little power buff right there. Going to always be at least threatening a hit on a vanilla rearguard circle against even a force number, which is good. And then when it attacks the Vanguard, we get to counterblast 1, choose a column, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in that column, rebind it, and then move another guy up from the behind that rearguard circle, obviously, to the front row. So then you can pair it with turning Bash. So you attack with him first, you attack with him second, and then you can basically bind both of them, making the restand cost a little bit less in here. The nice thing about, I think, the Cho-Oh and him is I think that you essentially get to swing with your Vanguard a little bit earlier in the sequence. I forgot exactly how it plays out, but when you pop him down, you bind, you basically choose one, bind, move that guy up, you swing with him, and then you are able to bind 2 units in your opponent's row as opposed to having 2 attacks go off for those 2 binds. So you're just able to attack their Vanguard a little bit quicker with these 2 combos, but no big deal either way. You can choose to play it whichever way you want. Moving right along, I think this is our last grade 2 in the deck. This is actually a pretty interesting card. This is like a new one out of, I think, oh god, what was it? Divine Lightning Radiance. So this is Lightning Cannon Eradicator Gongsun. I'm actually going to go over the skill because this is not an older card. So this is continuous on Vanna rearguard circle. During your turn, if you have a Lightning Gun Eradicator Ubar, I think that's how to say it. Yeah, Ubar. In the same column as this unit, this guy gets an additional 3k, so again, hitting those at least protect or excel numbers, and then its second skill, auto on Vanna rearguard circle, at the end of battle attacks, while boosted by Lightning Gun Eradicator Uban. It's counterblast 1, bind all of the rearguards in the same column as this unit, and draw 2 cards. So you're binding itself, but you're getting rid of 2 cards in the same column, plus you're still drawing those 2 cards, so you can place him down and the Oban, and then still, you're going even at least. You're not going neg for placing 2 cards, and you're still eliminating all the cards on your opponent's side of the field. So again, just really working towards making sure your opponent has an empty field so you don't have to discard anything for that Detonix Drill Dragon. Moving right along then, pairing him up, obviously I mentioned it over here, we have Lightning Gun Eradicator Uban, so we're starting off with our grade 1s now. His skill, if you have a Lightning Cannon Eradicator Gongsun, I think that's how to say it, in the same column as this unit, this guy also gets an additional 3k. Its second skill, auto on rearguard circle. When placed, if you have Lightning Gun Eradicator Gongan in the same column as this unit, you get to countercharge 1. So I know that there are a lot of counterblasts in this deck, like there are a ton all across the board, but this guy at least pays for itself in that regard, and plus you get to still get off like 2 binds potentially, which is really nice. So overall, I think this is a good combo, just really facilitating what we want to do for him, still saving some of those counterblasts as well. I know this card, it's been doing, it's a wild ride in terms of price. It went back up, it went down, it was really cheap at first. I think I picked a playset of these guys up for like 50 cents, but now I think they're around like the $2 to $3 mark coming out of Divine Lightning Radiance. But this is Mighty Bolt Dragoon, so we need to see our Detonix Drill Dragon. Like if you don't see him, you're not going to win. So you really just need a little bit of a consistency play here, and that's what we are using the grade 3 Searcher for. Moving right along, and again, this is Detonix Drill Dragon. We're trying to restand him, so I think that Desert Gunner Gaibin actually really helps us out here. So at the end of the battle it attacks, we get to choose one of our units, and until the end of turn, that guy gets an additional 3k, and your opponent cannot call Sentinels from their hand for the battle this unit chose to attack. So basically, you swing with him and boost with him, give him the additional 3k plus a Sentinel Restrict, restand him, and then on top of that, like you're getting the extra 5k from itself, potentially an extra 20k from here. So just helps you hit those really nice numbers. Like typically, unless your opponent hits defensive triggers, they're going to have to sacrifice 2 cards at least to guard this, if not more. So it's either A, PG bait, or for the first attack, and then B, you're trying to get rid of the rest of their hand in order to guard out your really, really big attacks and see what triggers you really can rip. But overall, decent combo with these 2. I like that a lot. Moving right along, so let me see, is this in frame? Yeah, I could fit 2 more over here. So we are going to be running 2 of Rising Phoenix. Sometimes we are going to be finding that we have to discard from hand. If you're going to do that, at least Rising Phoenix has a way to kind of come back and not be like a hard neg necessarily, and obviously Mighty Bolt Dragoon discards from hand too when you do find that grade 3 off of his search. So Phoenix just helps a little bit. I feel like we had a little extra room in here, so I like that. I'm putting it in at a 2 of. Moving right along then into our trigger lineup. So this is kind of like the big question mark in the deck. You could do whatever you want, really. I find that we benefit both off of draws and crits, but overall, no fronts really in here. I'm going 8 crits altogether, 4 of them being the Sentinel crits. I'll explain why in just a moment, but again, you can switch those to the PGs if you want, really cheap out of Clan Selection Volume 2, but still running 4 draw triggers, just the regular vanilla ones, obviously a starter as well. See, yeah, that's kind of in frame, you guys know the deal. But I like the critical Sentinels just because you don't have to discard an additional card from hand. Like, for his restand, sometimes you see that, like, you know, you just, it'll be that you have to discard from hand. So like if our PG has to do that on top of him, like it just becomes a lot of discard from your hand, where I think this guy as a single card putting it down is not that bad altogether. Like, again, this is like a fun deck. I know the PGs don't really cost a lot right now, but back before the PGs were reprinted, I was just running this guy, and I think it's fine. I think overall that you can switch it either way, but I would say try it out with the Crit Sentinels if you have them laying around. Let me know what you think, but overall, yeah, that is the idea of the deck. So yeah, let's hop into a test stand. I'll show you guys how the deck kind of plays out and my vision of it. Alright, so let's shuffle up over here and get ready for a test hand. So overall, the idea of the deck again is to boost your Detonix Jewel Dragon with that Power Rise Elixir while making sure the discard cost for doing the restand is really, really low. So overall, I think this is definitely a more fun deck. Like if you have the deck and the cards just laying around, there's really a very minimal kind of investment to make this deck playable at this point. And yeah, if you're like me, you really like Narukami, like it's my favorite clan, I'm always going to be trying to look at old cards and try to make them into a playable deck. So let's draw our test hand and go first, just to make things a little bit easier, as we always do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's see what we got. So we got all right, so we do get a full thing. I think I might put, do I want to put one of these back? Nah, I'm gonna keep this hand actually. It's not terrible overall. Unfortunately, we do have to ride this first, but let's see if we can draw into something else. So we just stand and draw. All right, so we do have to ride into that first. Draw off the ride because V Premium. We still draw off of that, and then yeah, we're gonna pass it over to our opponent. Take a damage for their turn. Power draw. All right, of course we draw both of them now, but I'm actually going to go into the Voltage Horn first over here, and during our turn, if any cards was bound, let's say they only attacked us once, they didn't have a rear guard or anything like that, it's okay, so let's attack over here. This is just going to be a 9k, swing, drive check, nothing. All right, over to our opponent, let's take 2 damage, let's say 1, power, and 2, all right, oh man. Stand and draw. So now they do have a rear guard at least. So let's go into our Detonix Jewel Dragon here. I'm just gonna, ooh, did I forget to bring over my things? Yeah, I did. I'm just gonna say this is a marker, excuse the proxy. Let's move this back to make sure it's in frame. Okay, so I am now going to draw off of the Excel 2. Oh wow, getting all of those, huh? Let's see, can we deck thin a little bit? Yeah, I think we can. Let's go. We don't have the guidance, so yeah, let's go here. Let's search the top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Let's see. Do I have a grade 3? No, I do not. It's okay. Shuffle back up. All right. So I have a choice here. I can choose to restand Cho-Oh. I could do that bind. I could do this bind. Whatever I really want. Let's see. Let's just call him down because he's going to get the +5, and we're also going to pretend that we're going to bind something else on our opponent's side of the field with that counterblast when he attacks. So let's do that. Let's also play this. We're going to counterblast 2. We're going to give our Detonix Jewel Dragon an extra 20k. So now it's going to become 32k plus a 13k when boost because we are going to bind something on their side of the field. So what is that? 32 plus 13. That is 45. Yeah, so not a bad first attack there. So let's. Do I want to sacrifice anything else from hand? I'm not going to be able to power him up. I kind of want him on an additional rearguard circle. I think we're going to conserve our hand right now because we're not going to have to like ditch anything from our hand for this. So let us just swing with this. I'm actually going to make this just 32k. Yeah, let's open with that 32k. Counterblast 1 to bind that card out, so I can now restand it and gets the additional +5. And then I am going to drive check 1 and 2. All right, no triggers there, but we do get another one for next turn. So if we live that long, we can do that. We are also going to now swing again. So this gets +5. So this is now 37. 37 plus the 13 there, right? That's 37 plus 13, which is 50. Let's do single drive. Boom. All right, we got the Gaibin. No triggers there, but overall not too bad. And something was bound this turn, so this now becomes like a 19k swinging over there. Not the most pressure in the world. Like obviously they would probably live through that turn, but I think we peppered them nicely enough, and we can kind of get a little bit more cards on field next turn, and we can also get the guard restrict off. But that's kind of the idea of the deck. Just restand that guy, power him up with the Power Rise Elixir. This combo too will be available for next turn as well. So overall, we're starting to get the ball rolling. It's not the fastest deck in the world, and sometimes you don't want to pop this off immediately when you, you know, on your first grade 3 ride. But I just wanted to show you, for simplicity's sake, how to do that. So overall, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys do enjoy this and you want to see that the Eradicator Vermilion list, make sure to get this video to 30 likes, and I will post that. So let me know in the comments down below. Anything else, let me know. Yeah, this is Alex from Team Generations signing out.